Hello, welcome to Brraap Life. My name's Angel. Thank you guys so much for listening. It means so much to see so many people resonating with these stories week after week. We're now at 22 countries, and it is absolutely incredible. It's so cool to see the numbers ticking up every single week. I'm really excited to be helping share these stories. This week is my friend Addy. She is a pro woman at 17 years old, and she's actually been pro for 16 in hard enduro. She's a West Coast rider, and she is just a badass. I remember seeing her last year at Silver Kings and just being blown away. So it was really cool. She was finally able to get time to sit down and talk to me. We've been trying to coordinate schedules for like a month and a half, almost 2 months. So it was really awesome to finally sit down and explore Addy and her story. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you next week. Here we go. Welcome to Brraap Life.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. It was really cool that you agreed to do this. I know it's been kind of hard to get schedules lined up. You're really busy, so
yeah, no, I got on.
But this is awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. You were nominated several times by people to come on here, so it was really cool. People just kept asking, so I was trying to get a hold of you last year after Silver Kings, and your Instagram is private or whatever, so it wouldn't show you probably that I talk to you.
But yeah, there was something that went on with it because I know people were messaging me and then they were like, I can't get through to you, and I was like, oh, I don't know why this is happening because I did move it to public because it was private for a while. That was the family rule. Once we have Instagram, we had to keep it private for a certain amount of time.
Well, and that totally makes sense. I 100% get that. There's crazy people out there, but I was trying to talk to you and ask you, and I was like, everybody wants to hear her story, so I'm glad it finally worked out.
Yeah.
It's just building up the excitement, that's all.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, let's start at the very beginning then. So the big question, how did you get started riding?
Well, my dad grew up riding and sort of racing just locally. So I was probably 4 or 5 years old, as long as because I can remember. When I started first riding, and we didn't live on much land. We lived in town in Bozeman, Montana, and my dad he got us a JR50, so a Suzuki, and he would tie the rope to the back of it and let us ride around and hold on to us so we didn't go too fast when we were really little, just around a tiny little yard that was fenced in, which is kind of, I guess, how I started learning how to ride. When I was about 4 or 5 as well, the rule was once you can ride your bicycle without training wheels, you can ride the dirt bike and without training wheels. So later that night when my dad told me that, I was out there with wrenches trying to figure out how to take my own training wheels off. Get rid of them, because we have this it was a track that kind of went around behind us, a walk pathway that we'd always ride down, and it had gopher holes and all sorts of stuff, and I did not like the training wheel, so I was just out there wrenching away. But mostly just been a family thing. My whole family rides. I have 2 younger siblings, brother who's a sophomore and a sister who's in 8th grade, Alice and Nolan, and they ride. And then my mom rides when we go out for camping or something like that. But yeah, I kind of just grew up doing it, I guess, camping and riding.
So when did you start racing?
Well, for a couple years when I was 7 and 8, I would race the 50s, but we moved to a TTR 50. And so whenever we raced those kids, me and my brother, it was so hard for us to beat them because our bikes were E-Start, and we had trail bikes that lasted longer. They were better for being on the trail, and we were racing against all these kids on KTMs 50s that are 2 strokes. And we would always just really have to work. We got beat for a while. We'd always Dad, we can't keep up with them. And your dad would be like, I know, but just have fun. So about then, and then we took a big break. We didn't really ever race. We just trail rode, camping, riding. And then about when COVID started, we really got into racing just because it was kind of the thing to do at that time. And then my dad broke his collarbone that same year. And the only way that we ever got to ride, because none of us could drive, was to go to races, because my dad would help us load the camper. He would drive us down there. So we kind of just got into local races to start racing when I was on an 85 at that time, like KTM. And that's kind of how we just got into racing, I guess. And we didn't do hard enduros until 3 years ago. So 2020, pretty sure. About 4 years ago. And it was Bentonite Brawl, the first like US hard enduro that we did, which I think was US hard enduro's like second ever like race, I guess, that they did.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we got into it.
All right. Yeah. And like, what drew you to hard enduro?
We had a buddy be like, hey, you guys got to go out and like try Silver Kings. But at the time it was, I don't remember who did it before James did it, but it was called Sticks and Stones, not Silver Kings. And that was kind of, he was like, go out there and give it a run. So my dad sent us out there, and he was like, sure, that sounds fun. Like, whatever. Like, the whole event's cool, you know, like family type of race. And we went out there, and I was on a KX 100, and my brother was on a 85. And my dad sent us out there in the youth class. And we were out there for, I think, 5 hours to finish it. And my dad was,
my gosh,
he was so nervous because he didn't see us for a really long time. And it was our first hard enduro. And he's like, what did we just send our kids into? Like, I have no idea how they're doing, if they're like back there in the woods, lost. Like, and we did finish. And that race was pretty funny because my brother and I like ran into each other. We were about the same level. And my brother came through the finish line, and Cody Webb and Evan Ass were sitting there, and they were like, Nolan, where'd you finish? And Nolan like turned around and pointed at the finish line, and they just thought it was the funniest thing ever. And my dad was like, ask Addie, because I rolled in like right after that, and they go, where'd you finish, Addie? And I did the exact same thing without hearing what my brother did. Oh, right. We're just like, what? And it was kind of just, we didn't really care where we like place wise. We just, our only goal to try to finish. And then after that, we were like, we should keep doing this. So we just did a couple, and then did a couple more, and now we're trying to race everywhere.
So how long did it take you to get like really comfortable with hard enduro? Because I know, so this has like been an ongoing conversation with women about getting comfortable to even try hard enduro in the first place, whether it's a race or even just getting out on a trail and trying something that's hard. A lot of women shy away from it. But what was it that drew you, or do you even know?
There was never like a time or anything that really like happened where I was like, ooh, this is like, I want to do this. Honestly, riding with my brother and my dad would probably be like the biggest thing, because it was like what they did was what I was going to do. Like, I kept up, did what they did, and kind of just like they've always been motivating and like, try it. Like, I'm here to spot you. I'm here to give you a hand or whatever it is. Yeah. And honestly, all of the boys that I've grown up riding with kind of are that way. And I was able to just like, I just always have kind of been willing to try more stuff. But I definitely like showed up to some of the hard enduros, and like, even like grinding stone, I'm still scared of grinding stone. When I have to race grinding stone, I'm like, gosh, here we go. Like, because it's scary. Like, the obstacles are scary. So the consequences are really big. But there was never like a moment, I guess, for me. I just kind of always been willing to try stuff. And once, I think the biggest thing for me that I liked about hard enduro was like, you can buy like 10 cents worth of flags and make me do something that I would never do in my daily ride. Of 1 cent flag to make me do something. So
oh my God. I've never heard it described like that.
That's not real though, because I'm like, I would never look at that on a trail and be like, I'm gonna do that until someone puts 5 cents worth of flags up it, and then I'm like, yeah, let's do this thing. But I think just the like finishing that obstacle and be like, oh my gosh, I did not think I could do that. And then like getting done and being like, I just did that. Like, and then finishing the race and talking to all the other people who have the same feeling because everyone's like, yeah, I did this and I did that. And I think that's what I mostly was like, I like this. Like, I could keep doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard Enduro has the best community. And that's something that we talk about in almost every single episode is just the community is second to none. Like, absolutely the best people, whether you're a spectator like me or you're a racer at any level, because we've even had pros say the same thing. It's basically like a big family, and whether you're on the trail or not, everybody's there for each other. And I think that's really cool. Whether you're sharing an experience and you're talking about it afterwards, like you just said, or, you know, you're out there and you're helping each other because, you know, you got to get through it somehow.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, the hard enduro community is like, I feel like very special for how it is. Like any amateur could pretty much walk up to any of the top pros and the top pros are going to have a conversation with them. You look at motocross and it's like, they don't know any of each other. Like the spectators don't really like, they aren't going to know any of the spectators. None of the younger racers are going to know any of the old, like, and I think the hard enduro community is very special in that way and like very welcoming to everybody. And I think that like you look at all of the competitors and it's like everyone's talking and hanging out before the race. And then like race time comes on. And sure, it gets more competitive then, but then we finish the race and everybody's ready to talk and have a good time. And there's no like, oh, I'm not talking to you because you're my rival. Like all of them train together, like Luis and I, we've ridden together, or Tristan and all of those top boys, they're all riding together and training. I think that's like one of the coolest parts about hard enduro. And even when I was in women's amateur, like I've helped other women up stuff, other women help me up stuff. And even though we're competing, it's like sometimes, and like people are just willing to be like, yeah, you know, in order for us to survive this, we'll help each other. And I think it's cool because you get to know people while you're racing. Like I've been in canyons before where I'm in there for an hour, you know, got to have a conversation at some point. And you just meet new people along the way. And I think it's like, as a whole, that's one of the biggest things I tell people is like, even if you want to come watch, just like, you'll love the community. Like the way everyone treats each other, the way everyone has each other's back. Like it's totally worth being out there racing or watching.
Yeah, definitely. I had found hard enduro through Erzberg like 10 years ago. And I didn't even have a bike at that point. And like I just saw it on like Red Bull TV. It was like I thought it was cool and I thought I was going to learn how to snowboard. So I was like trying to find snowboarding videos. And I was just like, oh, dirt bikes. And I was like, cool. So I clicked onto something and I saw Erzberg and I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen somebody do. Like, oh my God, what is this? And so I started watching it, but I didn't even know there was a US hard enduro until last year. Last year, I ended up at Battle of the Goats in North Carolina and I was hooked. It was just like you said, the community. I was like, everybody was so welcoming. And I was like a nobody who had a new bike that like every time I try and get on it, I'd fall over because the bike is way too big for me. And like, you know, nobody cared. Everybody was just like super cool about it. And I remember I actually had a conversation with Tristan Hart about wanting to do hard enduro. And he was like, dude, that's awesome. He's like, I look forward to seeing you do it one day. And I was like, heck yeah, like that's cool. Like, I don't know. It's the best community. I love it. And that's what got me hooked. And that's kind of like what brought the whole podcast, like to fruition, I guess, was just hearing people's stories at these races. I started going to the races and hearing stories and realizing that people didn't know the story of the guy or girl who was next to them. And I'm like, dude, that person has an insane story. Or like, you know, it's a 15-year-old kid who works their butt off to fly from Hawaii to the mainland and pay for as much stuff as they can. because, that's how dedicated they are, and these stories were inspiring me. So I was like, well, let's share them and inspire more people. And now the podcast is in 20 countries. And like, it is absolutely incredible how many people are resonating with these stories and just like getting inspired by them. We've had people message saying that they've bought dirt bikes. People are starting to get into hard enduro, all because they're hearing these stories. So
Yeah,
I just think it's the coolest thing.
that's so cool. Yeah, I think it's a big thing, and like growing the hard enduro like sport as in general, because it's scary for everybody. You watch a video and you're like, oh my gosh, that looks like really scary. But I think that like the stories are a really big part of it, because there's people from everywhere, and there's like from different levels to like how much are they like working to get there. And I think that as a whole, it's all really interesting for every different person. I think it's really cool what you're doing with the podcast and getting people out there, because you're getting to hear like everybody, like amateurs, pros, like not just like, oh, here's the top dudes, and like, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. When I originally started this, I was like, oh, I'm never going to have like the top guys on here. Mostly because like I didn't honestly, when I had the first couple episodes, I wasn't sure how many people were ever going to listen. And immediately, episode 1, I had a girl from Australia message, and like she and I are actually good friends now. But like the first episode made it to Australia. And I was like, I don't even know how this happened, but that was so cool. And it just kept growing from there and growing from there. And actually, for a while, we had more people listening in Australia than the United States. So
really,
oh, yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But it's been awesome to hear these stories and connect with people and find out how like everybody's different. Everybody has a unique story, but at the same time, there's like all of these things that we all have in common, and dirt bikes bring us together. And then most of these interviews have been hard enduro people, and hard enduro takes a different level of crazy for us to do it. So
definitely a different level of crazy.
It's like you said, going out on the trail, sometimes you're like, oh, there's no line there. And then you see somebody who's really good fly up it, and you're like, okay, yeah, no.
Okay, so that actually is a line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a real thing. I think that goes back to kind of how I got into hard enduro and stuff. It's just like that's what happened. We'd be riding, my brother or my dad would just rip up something that I didn't even think was possible, and I'd be like, oh, that means I have to do that next. Like, in order for us to get to the location, I'm gonna have to do that. And I think it's really cool what all happens with the hard enduro community. And even like our local series, I race in a local 406. It's called the 406 XC series, but it's the Montana local races. And even them, like as a community, is amazing. Like I tell so many people, like, just go out there and see it. Like, just go see what's happening, because even if you don't want to race or enter in a low class, just go give it a run, because I think that the community that I built and like the relationships and the like pretty much family that I have from racing is like always going to be with me, and like kind of like how I've grown up. Like I'm only 17, and when you grow up around the right people, it's like that's how you learn to be. And I think that most dirt bikers, although we are crazy, like definitely still have like a bunch of traits and things that I've learned a lot from. And even with racing, I've learned a lot of life lessons through racing. And I think that just as a whole, it's a cool thing to be doing, be a part of.
Yeah. I think it's really awesome for the fact that you guys are so young. The person who I found when I started all of this podcast and everything was Makana Barger. He was 15, and just it's crazy to see the dedication that you guys have at such a young age, and in a culture that, you know, our culture is very much about doing things the easy way, doing things quickly. Hard enduro and dirt biking in general is not like something that happens overnight. It's something that you have to work at. You don't just get better, and you can't pay anybody to make you better. Like, you have to put in the work for it. And I think that that is a big reason why a lot of people, especially at the top, have so much respect for each other, because it is everybody's put in the work to get to the level they're at, whether they're just starting or whether they're all the way up at your level. And I think that there's a huge respect that comes from that.
Definitely. Well, and like I think even the littlest thing of like when you go out to train, you look at most sports and it's like put on your shoes, your shorts or whatever, like basketball, put on your shoes, your shorts, your ankle brace. Even to go dirt
Yeah.
biking, it requires usually load up your dirt bike, put on all your riding gear, and a lot, even just to get to go practice. And especially for, I guess, Montana kids, Idaho kids, people like that. For us, like by September, I don't ride anymore unless it's for hunting. We hunt, and unless it's for hunting and I use my bike to hunt with, our bike ends up getting put away from September until January, the very first race, just because it gets snowy, too cold out here to do anything. And I think like learning the ways around that of how do you stay like in shape and ready to ride a dirt bike, because nothing like gets you in shape like riding. There's like, you can work out and you can do different like certain workouts for dirt biking, but nothing is the same as just seat time. And I think that's been one of our biggest things is like, especially with now King of Motos being like in January, we're always like, oh boy, like our bike is still like, we haven't touched it. So we always try to go down a week early just to get some seat time, some calluses built back up on our hands so they don't bleed while we race. But that's definitely, like, at least here, a hard thing. And I think, the amount of young athletes doing hard enduro is kind of blows my mind, because it takes like I'm a full-time high school student and I'm going to college at Montana State University for construction engineering, technology or civil engineering. And I think that like the amount of dedication that that everyone has, like, because it does take a lot. Like most of my friends sleep in on their weekends and they're relaxing on their weekends and they're not training and they're not putting in a bunch of time. And then like the stress that you get from showing up to a race and like being on the start line is like an undescribable amount of stress while you're sitting there waiting for the flag to drop. And I think that like, but the level keeps increasing. You look at like Riley Bender or those boys, like, and I'm always like, wow, my brother, he's only and I'm like, oh boy, you guys are really like stepping it up. Like the age at which they are to like how well they're riding is always impresses me. And I think that like, like you were saying, the amount of dedication it takes is definitely a lot, but worth it, I guess, to everyone. All of us who are out there doing it at a young age.
I think it's awesome. My friend's son has started doing hard enduro. He was 3, just turned 4, on his little, like, he's got like this tiny little KTM electric bike. But this little kid, oh my God, he's such a little beast. He goes through and like he'll go to the same sections that his older brothers go through, and he'll just like, you know, try and pick up his little bike. And I've seen so many little 3 and 4-year-olds doing stuff like that, and I'm like, in 10 years, what is the level going to look like? Because these kids have been on these bikes since they were like 2, you know, it's crazy. So who knows what the level's going to get to. It's already been pushed so much since I started watching hard enduro. Like, things get crazier and crazier. The lines just get bigger and bigger. You know, Hard Enduro Bros has done a really good job about highlighting some of that really crazy stuff that those guys can do. And some of that stuff, I'm like, oh my God. Because, you know, the video makes it look absolutely epic, but we all know that videos never do it justice. So how much bigger is it in real life, the stuff that these guys are doing?
Definitely. No, that's what I was when I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be like really amped up. I don't even know. I couldn't imagine setting a course for like the top pros. I'm like, I don't know how you set a course for them. When I look at what they do, I'm like, yeah, I could even imagine like setting a course and be like, yeah, we'll send them up that. Like I would,
Yeah.
it blows my mind what they can do. And I'm like, oh boy, I wonder what it's going to be like when the like the younger generation is up there. And I'm like, oh boy. Here we go.
It's just,
I'm excited to see
oh
it, though.
man.
Yeah.
So how long have you been at your level for riding? Like,
Well,
was it just this last year?
yeah, I entered women's pro last year.
Okay.
And raced women's amateur for I think 2 years.
Okay.
But I entered women's pro at 16, and my family was all kind of skeptical. Everybody was kind of skeptical because they were all like, "You're only 16, like that's a big jump to make," because the jump for women is so big. Like the men kind of get a slow step way up to the top,
Yeah.
and the women's like, "Okay, you're an amateur, you're in pro, one or the other."
Yeah.
But I was doing really well in pro, and I won every last women's amateur. I mean, I had won every one of my races, and I was like, well, like it's complete sandbagging if I stay women's amateur.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did. I moved up to pro last year, and then did pro, and I'm in pro this year. Yeah,
that's awesome. And you're loving it, or is it a little scary? Or
it was a little scary last year, like just stepping up to that level, because it's a whole. Like, even though most of the courses, the women's amateur ends up on like the B lines minus silver, or they're either on the pro, just like everybody else.
Yeah,
that wasn't different, but like the mindset that the pro women have, like that, like Louise has, compared to the women's amateur mindset, and just the level of like desire to win. I'd say like in women's amateur, you typically see more women that are like just trying it, or moms that are like, I want to go try to race this thing. Like, let's go do this, less like I want to win. And in women's pro, like, I quickly realize like, oh, like this is like real. And getting the mindset, I'd say, figured out of like racing at a pro level and training at a pro level has been, I feel like, one of the hardest things for me, just because I'm so used to trail riding. We've never really trained. I've never, like recently I've gotten more into training than my brother and I have, but since this year, like before that, it was always just go out and ride trails. Go ride with faster people like CJ Morris or Evan Ask. Like these local guys around here that we ride with, and getting faster, but there was never like, okay, today we're going to go train on how to do like double blips. And then tomorrow we're going to train on a moto track and stuff like that. We never really did that. And I think that mindset of like stepping it up to the pro level was probably the biggest and like most difficult thing for me, was just the mental game of amateur to pro. But I do love it.
So speaking of mindset, that's something that I always like to pick people's brains on, is like, so when you're in the thick of it, you're like stuck in a section. I don't even know if you get stuck in sections, but if you get stuck in a section, how do you keep going? How do you keep pushing forward? Like, is there something you do, or like a technique, meditation, anything like that to keep you going?
Well, typically I definitely get stuck. Last year, actually, at King of Motos in downtown, the same one I got stuck in this year. It's a canyon back there, and I got like, my bike had slid under this rock, and I was like, at some point, I'm like, there's no way like for me to get this out. I actually called my dad. I was crying, and I was out of water. I was out of food. I was 5.5 hours into this race, and I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna make it out of this canyon, Dad. And Mesa Lang, who I was racing against, was like right behind me in this canyon, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And honestly, it just takes me being like, putting behind my mistakes, my previous mistakes, and being like, you can do this. Like, you've done hard things. This isn't anything that you can't do. And just taking it step by step. Okay, and the next check is like, I just got to get there. I just got to get to that next uphill. and just moving by sectioning it out has honestly helped me the most. Especially at King of Motos, if you zoom out on the GPS while you're racing, goes all downhill after that because you're like, oh, I have a ways to go. If you stay zoomed in, you only got a little bit of distance to have to watch. And I think that's been my biggest thing. And also people around me help a lot. Like when I'm alone, I think I have a more difficult time because it's like you just feel so alone. When you're raced for 2 hours and nobody's been around you, you're like, did I get lost? Or like, and you just start being like, oh my gosh, and keeping yourself going and pushing can be hard. But when I was actually in that canyon, Nick Clark was in there with me, and he's one of the, you've probably met Nick, amazing dude, sweetest guy ever. He was in there and he threw me some water and he was just like, you got this, Addy. And just like having other people be like, let's do this, we can do this. And I know I've had to say it to other people where I'm like, let's go. Or, and just being like, let's keep going. Next thing, move on. Just one more check or whatever it may be, I think has honestly been my biggest thing. Just like take it a step at a time and try not to take it as a whole race in like one big thing. And probably also understanding that I'm just riding my own race. Because I tend to get, like last year, I'd get so stressed out before the races. Like I wouldn't eat in the morning when I was like pre to race because I was just like, I can't eat, Mom and Dad. And they'd be like, eat eggs, do it. Like you need to eat because you're going out there for 6 hours. But I would get so nervous like to try to podium and to do well. And this year I really like, I finished last season. And I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Like I'm getting so nervous. And honestly, for women's pro, even it's more for fun. Like it's really hard to make a living as a racer, I feel like, and then let alone being a woman in the racing industry. And I'm like, this is literally only for fun, and I wasn't having fun. So this King of Motos had to like really focus on just being like, you can only control your race. I can't control how the other women race against me. And some of my thirds mean way more to me than some of my first places by far, because I worked harder at my third, and where you're like, oh, I did good on that race. So I think just having the mental like chill out for me has also been a big thing where like, don't get worked up. This isn't the end of the world. You're going to make it through it. Just take the next step has been, I feel like the biggest thing for getting out of spots where you just feel like you're never going to go anywhere.
No, I really, I get that whole, like, you have to keep the fun. Like, and I've talked to so many pros that say that, like, when you lose the fun and it all just becomes competition 1,000% all the time, and you're not having fun with it anymore, what's the point? Because no one in hard enduro is making that much money, like even at the very top. And like that's hard for a lot of people to hear, because people think, oh, they're pro, so like they must be getting like all these deals and all this money, and a lot of people don't understand that that's not how it is. There are pro racers who are working full-time jobs to try and get to the few races that they can get to. Like they can't even do the full Premier Series because they just can't afford to go across the country. Like they have to do either West or East Coast because it's a lot of money to travel. So, and like you said, it's not bringing, you're not bringing in that much.
Yeah. And especially for women, like I just had to look at it and be like, okay, like Maria Forsberg, she showed up at our local races and lives in Stevensville now. And she showed up to race, and I was asking her about like, what's your story like? Because Maria's achieved so much in her life. If you know who Maria Forsberg is, I assume you do, but she's an incredible woman. She was the first factory KTM rider, and like she's done a bunch of gold medals in ISD. I was like, how did you do it? And she was actually like, she would tell me her story of like, oh, I'd fly overseas and get a red eye so that morning I could be at the race. And then I'd race, get a red eye after the race so that next morning I could show up and be at work all week. She was an electrician, work all week long, and then get to my next race that next weekend so that I had enough money to show up to these races. And I was like, whoa, like you really did it. She did it clearly just for the desire of loving dirt bikes. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just like amazed because that takes a lot. Like, I think it's hard to just show up to the races. And I'm like, talk about getting a red eye to show up to the race and then get a red eye to be at work the next morning and then work work your 40 hours and then do it again. Like, I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
boy. And Maria is a woman in the sport and she understood that like you don't really get that much. And I think that was my biggest thing last year was I was like, I'm not having fun. Like, this is like turns into so much because of women's amateur. I'd stop. I'd have a snack with everybody. I would talk to everyone. I was never concerned about like rushing. And then I got, I need to do better. I need to ride faster. And just that, I was like, I'm not having fun anymore. And I had to like really take a step back and be like, okay, the only way to make this worth it and to show is to have fun and not make it this huge like life or death, not fun, like competition like setting. Because I am very competitive in everything that I do. But once I was able to take that step back, I was like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, and I was able to have fun at Kingamoto's. I got done and I was like,
good, smiling,
and I was like, Dad, I had so much fun. I rode so well, blah, blah, blah. And that really helped to like want to show up to the next race and like do well, I'd say.
Yeah, that's great. So where did you find that along your journey here, that you had this passion for helping other women? Because you are competitive and you're at a high level. And to a lot of people, it would seem like that would breed like, you not wanting to help other women raise in the sport, but you're kind of the opposite. You're like a huge cheerleader for everybody. And I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, no. Well, I love getting to see other women out there. I've never grown up riding with women. Like I've never ridden with a women's only group by any means. I guess when I did a clinic, but like to daily riding, I've never done it. And I've had other little girls come up to me and be like, hey, like, can you help me ride or blah, blah, blah. Like there's a local girl, her name's Charlie, and she's always like, hey, like, do you want to help me ride? And whatever it may be. And I'm just like, and I think it's really cool to see the younger generation like come up and try to get them, especially into hard enduro, because hard enduro is a whole nother beast to take on, but just to get more women riding, because I know there's a bunch out there that want to ride and they want to try it. And like, because their husband's doing it, their kids are doing it, they want to do it or whatever it may be. And I think just being able to like be like, hey, look, everyone's welcoming. The pro women are welcoming to let you in. Like, we'll help you. Like, whatever it may be. If I pass a women's amateur out there, I'm like, yeah, let's do this thing. Like, and just because I'm just so excited to see them out there. And I think being able to have another woman to go to about, hey, how do I set my bike up? Hey, what's this technique? Because it is a little bit different. Just like means a lot. And I'm like, just to get as many women, even on the trail, like, hey, come ride with me. There was a couple women at our local race and they were a bunch of like moms and they never really, they ride, but they don't race. And I was like, let's do this thing. And they were like, no. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I'll speed ride for you. I will ride behind you the entire time. So that's what I did. I rode Saturday because our race was Sunday. And I was like, I'll pick you up. I'll cheer you on. Like, and I think just getting like women into it, I think helps a lot, because I think once you get the women in, they can like stay in it. I think it's just getting them to come out and be like, okay, I can do this. Like, this is like, you know what I'm saying? Versus where a lot of women I do believe want to do it. They're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know who to ride with or whatever it may be. And I think that love getting to see all of that and getting to see more women come in and even more women to race me. Like at our local race, for a while, it was just me racing. And I'd have like a woman show up or something. But until this last year when Maria showed up, I didn't have anyone. And she was just so happy. She's like, oh, like you guys are so welcoming and whatever. And I was just like, because some of the other women that were racing weren't as welcoming to her. And she was like, thank you for being so welcoming. And at one of the races, I actually called her at the start line because we were lining up and she wasn't there. It was just me. And I was like, Maria, where are you? And she was like, don't worry, I'm coming. And I was like, good. I don't want to race alone. And Maria's definitely like, it takes a lot for me to hang with her. And I've actually got second to her every time. But pushed to get second. And like, I'm like, I will take any of those seconds over just going out alone and getting a first place, because I've gone out alone, gotten a first. Okay, wonderful. But what did I do to earn it? And I've just to get more women out there to race me or to not race me. I want them to just come out and try it and come out and do it. So I think in whatever way I possibly can to motivate younger girls and give advice, to just like helping older women who are just like, I don't know where to start, what to do.
Yeah.
Has been a big.
I love that. It's a little bit different than my motivation. My motivation, so I was married and I got divorced a couple years ago. And I had ridden with him a little bit, but I didn't ride very much until after we got divorced because I was in school full time. I was working full time. I never had time. And once I started riding on my own, like I gained so much confidence from it. And it was kind of like you said earlier, like you conquer the obstacle. At the time, I was on my little TTR 125, and like the obstacle might be like a pebble that I actually went over instead of falling over in front of. But it's still like it gave me confidence, and I was like super excited. The first time I loaded my bike and I went to ride by myself, like I was so scared. Oh my God, I had an anxiety attack. But I did it. And then I loaded my bike back up at the end and I was just like, oh my God, that was such an amazing feeling. And that's the feeling that I want every woman who rides to feel, is that confidence and that feeling good about yourself, like just feeling comfortable. And so when I was on the East Coast last year, I would try and find women who wanted to ride and try and like, even if they'd only been out riding once, like try to really just get them out there, just get them some seat time. Like you talked about, like, it's not even about, I'm not a coach. Like, I don't know enough to coach, like, but I can be there. I can help you pick up your bike. I can, go slow next to you and I can, sit there and be patient. So that way you can get comfortable. And that's what I want for like every woman that I'm around. I've been very fortunate to be on several all women's rides and they're always so much fun. And it's just everybody cheering each other on and just having fun and all of that support. And not to say that the guys aren't supportive, because I've been riding with some super, super awesome guys who are insanely supportive. And they're learning that my little 5 foot tall self can't do stuff the way their 6 foot tall selves can. But that's the other thing. It's like you said, like we know how to set up bikes different. Well, I don't, but other people know how to set up a bike for somebody who's smaller. Some people who weigh less, some people who, I have this unique issue of I have little tiny baby feet, but I don't have baby sized calves. So I've worked with some other women to get some info on like what can we do to like maybe make like some changes in the industry and stuff like that. I'm actually pursuing that right now. Trying to see if we can get a better boot sizing for women, because there are so many women who have that issue of they have small feet, but we don't have small calves. We have women sized calves. So and like there's other pain points, but I put out like this whole survey and there was like 150 people who responded, and so like I got a good chunk of data. But the issues that women run into are issues that only women can help with. I can't go to a guy and, I mean, I could, but what are his answers going to be? Be like, hey, what do you do when you have to pee during a race? Because their answer is probably going to be a little bit different. So,
yeah. Like, no, that's one of the biggest things too, is I feel like women tend to shy away from riding with the dudes, whether it's like they're intimidated to be the slowest. And I think that honestly be one of my biggest advices to younger women would be like, don't be afraid, to any women, don't be afraid to be the slowest. Because at some point, everybody has been the slowest. Tristan Hart's, Buddy Webb's, they've been the slowest before in a group. And like, I think that typically tends to shy women away, because it's like, oh my gosh, everybody's waiting on me. Like, oh, I'm the slowest person. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been the slowest so many times. I'm still currently usually the slowest. Like, and I think that just like that motivation, and also like men are definitely supportive. My family's been very supportive. The boys that I ride with, they're all very supportive to me. But I think that women, they're definitely more like, if you fall over, they'll pick your bike up, but they're not going
Mm-hmm.
to tell you, oh, that you did a great job or whatever it is because you fell down. They're just not going to say it. Like, that's just how I feel like dudes tend to be. And I think that having like other women to be like, yeah, good job, like, and extra motivation, extra like, you can
Yeah.
do this, where the men are going to be less bubbly. They're going to be less cheery and stuff. And I think trying to just show women that like, look, like, come out and ride, come do this thing, like, and just trying to get women to come out with even one other woman in the group helps, because
Yeah.
it's like that woman, they're like, oh, okay, like another woman did it, I can do it. Just things like that, I think has
Yeah.
been, it's one of the hardest things I think to get women out there at least to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because they typically are don't want to go ride with the dudes. And I've always just
Yeah.
been raised that way. That's how I was raised. Like if I wanted to ride, I rode with the dudes.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of women who just want to get into it and they don't want to go with their husband or their boyfriend or a friend
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be so much slower than that dude. And nobody, and
Yeah.
like, oh, no one wants to wait for me. But in reality, like, they will wait. And like,
Mm-hmm.
typically they're going to end up just playing around or something, anyways, wherever they stop.
Yeah.
And then you like in the rocks or whatever.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you take your time to do it. And I think just being able to show women that, like, no matter what level you're at, come try it. Because for
Yeah.
some, it's like making it up the smallest to like, that's a big thing for one level. And then making up a rock ledge is a whole another thing for another level. Like I ran that with the
Yeah.
clinic.
Yeah.
I didn't really like a level per se. I just said like, women come out and do it. And I had some
Yeah.
that were like wanting to learn how do I use a clutch, to
Mm-hmm.
some other ones that were like, how do I go over this rock or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
it's like just showing them that like, look, we're all at different levels here, but like everyone cheer each other on. Everyone had a good time, because women
Yeah.
typically tend to be more like, they're more willing to cheer on. Like if you crash, they're like, yeah, let's do this thing. Like,
I think we
whereas
put,
men are a little less that way, I guess.
yeah. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So I when I got into this, I had some really bad experiences right off the bat, and I've had a few bad experiences throughout my time riding where people have said some really dumb things like I shouldn't be on my bike or girls shouldn't ride, stupid things. Um, but it's that I think that that's what we need. There's a lot more people who are supportive. Um, but women are almost always supportive of other women immediately. And I think that that's really cool. I've had the really good fortune of running into a couple groups of guys, one group on the East Coast, and now this new group that I'm riding with on the West Coast. And I just got super lucky, and they are like the best dudes ever on each coast because like they are the supportive types that like are like, yeah, dude, I can't believe you just made it up that, like, that's so cool. And I'm like, it was like a teeny tiny little ledge, but they're cheering me on because they know for me that that was a lot, you know. And so I think that that's really cool when you can find people like that. But yeah, women tend to be like that right off the bat. And like I said, a lot of women put pressure on themselves like, okay, I need to be good because otherwise everyone's just going to think I'm terrible and no one's going to want me to take me on this trail ride. And I've met a lot of women like that. I've met a lot of women who've cried because they dropped their bike and they're like, "Oh my god, everybody thinks I'm terrible now and I swear I'm not this bad." And I'm like, "Dude, you dropped your bike. Like, you know how many people fall all the time? Did you know like I've ridden with Jarvis and seen him fall on his bike like I can't even tell you how many times. Like, dude, everybody falls. Everybody has issues like that. And everybody started out in the same spot. That's why I said, in order to ride a dirt bike, you have to be a little bit crazy because you are going to fall. And you're going to fall a lot as you're trying to figure things out. So, like, it's fine. And once you normalize that, a lot of times women can get out of their heads
and like it's good for them and they feel a lot better. But I don't know why we do that. Like, because I was guilty of the same thing. I was like, oh my God, I fell this time. No one's going to want to ride with me anymore. And that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Well, I think women and like women in like normal, they tend to want to be like 100% prepared before going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Men are way more like, looks like I can do it. Let's try this thing. And women are more like, I want to be prepared. I don't want to like, and I think men are way better. They like typically are just like, oh, fell, whatever. Next thing, move on. And like they don't put a bunch of time and thought into it and are less cautious than women typically tend to be. And I think that all those factors play into it. And even when you ride with boys, you're riding with them because you know them some way, whether it's your boyfriend, your husband, your brother, whatever it is. And I think women tend to not want to fail in front of other men as well. I think that's another big thing, at least that I've run into, is like, if you're riding with a woman who's with their boyfriend, they don't want to fall in front of their boyfriend. It's going to make them look like, oh my gosh, like I can't do, like, you know what I'm saying? And I think that shies away from it, because I think that's why the women's only groups are a really cool thing, because there's no pressure. They're not trying to impress anyone or whatever it may be. And I think that helps a lot with women just getting to come out and do. They're willing to try more stuff. They're so much more willing to, like, I've seen women go with men and I've seen them go with just girls groups, like with Luis when we did a clinic at Donner, and women are way more willing to be like, yeah, I can try that, tip over and have all the girls pick me up, because there's less like pressure, I feel like, that women feel like. But honestly, when you're out on the course or whatever it is, there are men out there who will find me on the course, like we'll be like run into each other or something, whatever it is. Oh, you're that chick, you rip, like I saw you do this or that. And it was so rad. And I think that we typically don't notice that like other people are noticing that, because I feel like women tend to dwell on like the mistake that they made. And I guarantee that guy probably saw me fall, loop my bike out, something that was totally not any level of cool. But they also are like, oh, look at that. Like, that's a chick out riding and doing it. Whether or not they're amazing at it, like just being a woman rider is a whole nother thing. Like, just learning how to be able to go to a parking lot is that big step of like, okay, I'm going to try something really hard, because dirt biking has a steep learning curve. Like, you get on the bike, and like when we're little, we learned without a clutch and then learned how to ride and then got a clutch. But when you're older, you typically just end up on a bike with a clutch. So you're learning how to ride with the clutch. You're learning, and you're constantly falling over, fail after fail after fail after fail. And the mental game and like just the physical toll and everything is a bunch. And just being willing to go out there and do that is more than most women can say. If you look at most women, a bunch of them are going to say, yeah, I went out and tried dirt biking and I failed over and over for 2 years of riding. I just constantly fell, constantly scratched up, but that they overcame it and they did it. Like, and I think that's one of the biggest things is like, I try to tell them, I'm like, enter enduro, like just you having like the guts and the like willingness to try dirt biking or try the hard enduro is something that like no one else can say. And if someone's going to make fun of you for it, they clearly don't understand like what you're doing and how hard it is, because most dudes, whether it's the top pro or an amateur, are going to be like, that's so rad, you're out here doing this. Like, yes, let's do this thing. You know what I'm saying? No one is really like, oh, you are not a good rider. Like, because they were that way. In order for them to learn how to do it, that's what came with it. And so I think getting women out with other women does help, because they do typically, like you said, tend to be like a little more timid to like do all that other stuff. And but I think that it's growing. And I think that like I talk to the like others, like people in the industry, like Climb or Bulletproof. Like when I did that, actually, Climb, Bulletproof, both sent me, and Intech, they all sent me discount codes to give to the women who participated, just to get more women into it, just to be like, hey, here's some discount codes, go get into it. And I think that it's growing, and I I think we're doing a good job at growing the sport, but I do think it takes being like, look, everyone's going to fail, and it's a part of it. It is not always the funnest part of it where you're falling over, but no matter what level you're falling over. Like,
yeah, exactly.
that's just how it is. Like you were saying, you watch Graham Jarvis fall over. Graham Jarvis is like one of the best, and he still falls over. And I think getting that into heads, and I think once they get it, though, I do think that they're like, oh, like, I'm willing to do this. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I think it takes that bump, like, come out and do this. Like, let's go, and just getting them out there. Even if you can't coach them or tell them what to do, just getting them out there and being like, look, here we are. Everyone falls over. Everyone fails. Let's all fall and fail together. I think.
Yeah. And that's kind of like where so I don't know if I told you, I'm doing this TKO challenge thing. It's kind of actually more like a race team. It's like a temporary race team for TKO for 2025. And it was kind of my friend Dana's idea back when I was doing the contest for the women's US hard enduro entry fee. And it kind of became born from that. But basically, she and I started talking. She's a GNCC rider. She really wants to try a hard enduro. And so I was like, dude, you should totally do it. She's like, yeah, but I just don't know. Like, I don't really want to do it by myself. There's not very many women that do it. And I was like, I'm new. I'm doing my first hard enduro this year. Like, by that point, that'll be like my second or third one, but it's still going to be my first year. It's going to be my first time at TKO because that's what lines up with her GNCC schedule. So I was like, I'll come and I'll do it with you. And so she got super excited. And then she started talking to some of her friends. And now we have a group of 9 women. And we're looking at sponsorship for it. And this podcast is partially going to be sponsoring it. We're looking at getting a women's clinic to be right before TKO. So that way, women can, do the clinic, feel a little bit more comfortable about some of the obstacles they're going to be facing, to try and get women to be as comfortable as possible, because it's scary to do hard enduro. And I want to remove as many obstacles as I can for women. And because it's specific to this event where all of these, most of them are GNCC riders. It just happened to be that, but there's like 6 of them. And they all wanted to do it. So that's why we picked TKO. But it's really cool because, like I said, there's 9 women now who are part of this group, and we're trying to grow it. We're trying to now make it the highest attended TKO ever in history. So for women. So I think that'll be really cool. So I started talking to Louise to see if she'll do the clinic, and so I'm trying to work with her on that. So it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be really cool. Yeah,
that's rad, and that's what we need. That's what needs to happen, is just getting women out there to try it. And I think getting a clinic before is always helpful. Like, that's what Lisa and I did at Donner was
and that's kind of where the idea came from, was your guys' clinic.
Do a Donner. Like, I just helped Luis out and do a Donner clinic because the girls afterwards, it was so cool. But the girls afterwards, some of them came up to me after the race, like, Addy, when you told me to do blah blah blah, I did it at this hill, and it was so, like, it helped me so much, and I had so much more confidence to try that or this. And they were like, I just thank you so much. And it's just like, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what needs to happen, is like, women feel confident to do it, they're going to try it and do it. And I think that helped a lot of women. They were just like so happy to be able to be like, yeah, and then I did it, and like, yes, it worked, because that's the feeling that I love. Like, that's the reason I do it. I tried it, then I got it. And I think that being able to, eliminate and take some of the pressure off and the nerves of what's going to come is a big thing. And doing a clinic before definitely helps. And it's a big motivation. I've never actually been to TKO.
You should totally come.
That should be a cool whole thing.
It's going to be awesome. So I'm actually living in Arizona now. And so it's going to be a haul for me to get there. I'm trying to convince a couple of the West Coast girls to come with me so we can all just like road trip out there.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be really cool to get as many women as possible. But then, like, just the fact that I announced that I was doing that, sorry, my train of thought is slowing down. The fact that I announced that first contest for women, that actually sparked one of the guys on the East Coast. He doesn't do like US hard enduro, but he does a hard scramble. He actually announced that he's not going to charge women an entry fee this year. So that way women can dip their toes into harder racing. And so for his race, all women are going to ride for free this year. So, which is amazing. I don't know how many women are actually signed up to do it, but I think it's really cool that he's willing to do that because he has a passion for hard enduro and he wants to see the sport grow. So he's like, I was really inspired and I want to see more women in this. So I think it's really cool. There's been a lot of people who've come out and said that they would be willing to support, and that's where all the sponsorship stuff is coming in. And I think it's amazing how many people are backing women in hard enduro and really encouraging them to do this because that's just, I hope it's going to open more doors for women to feel more comfortable. And, you know, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out the best way to help women, like whether it's getting gear or, you know, if you don't ride with knee braces generally and now you need some, like I'm going to see if I can get donations for stuff like that. So like we'll see what I can get, but I mean I want to eliminate as many barriers as possible. I just want to make it possible for women to just kind of show up and try it. So to the best of our ability.
Yes. Well, I think honestly, industries want it too. If you think about it, like think about a typical family and like the husband's like, hey, I want to go get a dirt bike. And then the wife's like, no, we're not doing that. But imagine if the wife was like, yeah, let's do this thing. The whole family will do it. Well, now you're buying 5 bikes or whatever. And now you're buying 5 sets of gear and you're buying 5 helmets and 5 boots. And because just getting the wife to want to do it is going to be like, yeah, let's buy a new bike. Let's do that. Like whatever it may be. And I think that people definitely do want women in the sport. Like at Donner, it was free hill climb entries and like a big discount for women's amateur entry fee. And I think that you can see that they want to grow women in the sport. And I know like Matt Musgrove was always, how can we get more women? What can we do? And I know even like the pro women, Luis, me, like we want to grow the women amount too, like in whatever way possible. Like I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Like I know some girls like, are you gonna come this way and ride? Are you gonna come over here? And I'm like, I'll try, but like I'm doing a lot too, and it's expensive. And I pay for my own bike and parts and stuff. And soon I'm going to college, and it's like, oh boy, now I've got to pay for college and rent and racing. But it's definitely a cool thing because, I was surprised. I was like, I didn't think when I did a clinic that people from anywhere else except for like my local crew would reach out to me. But there was people who were like, oh my gosh, like there was another girl, she reached out and she's like, you inspire me so much. Will you come ride out here? And yada, yada. I'll have a place for you to stay, whatever it is. And I'm just like, yeah, that'd be so cool. And I'll definitely try to make it out there. It's just coordinating it all. But I think that's what it definitely needs is like people like you too, like just being like, hey, here's a group, let's go try this thing, we're all in it together. It's really cool.
I'm all about fueling people's passion. Like that's my thing in life is I love seeing people in their element and seeing people trying to find that. And if I can help people to get there, then why wouldn't I do that, you know? So it's really cool. And I'm going to be there alongside them, struggling through all of the craziness of TKO with them. So like, I'm throwing myself into it too. Like I've wanted to do hard enduro for a really long time, but I just started riding a couple years ago. And, you know, that was like the goal and it didn't feel achievable for a really long time. And I really don't know that I'm ready, but I figured no better way to find out than to just do it. So,
No, you should
yeah,
definitely do that.
and I'm trying to, now that I have this platform, and it's kind of like you said, there's so many people who want me to come and ride with them all the time, and it's like, it's weird. There's people in other countries who've asked me to come and ride with them, and I'm like, I'm not that good. But then, like, at the same time, okay, I'm at a certain level and I can go and I can enter this hard enduro and I can show people that you don't have to be a top pro person to be able to do it. Because that was something that I was told. They're like, this person told me, you're not going to be ready to do hard enduro for like 5 to 6 years because you're not going to have the skills to be competitive enough. And I'm like, well, what if I just want to try it and I don't like, do I need to win? Like, because I've done other races where like I just did it for the experience. Like, I just want to try and see. Like, my ultimate goal is to just get to one checkpoint. If I can do that, and be the happiest person in the world. And like, obviously I would love to finish, but like, small goals for the first one, and we'll see what I can do. But I just want to do it because it's what I've always wanted to do. I'm starting from square zero. I didn't start riding until I was almost 30, and I'm 35 now. And, I've only got a couple years of actual seat time under my belt. And, all of these things are against me. But if I can go, I can do it. And I can essentially like survive a hard enduro, and I can show people that you don't have to be a top person to do it. Like, I'm the ultimate poster child for like the person who shouldn't be doing it. So like, if I can do it, literally anyone can. So I'm just hoping it inspires somebody, and that some women see it and they're like, hey, I can do that, and that they come out and they try the next one, and that they're just inspired to push. So
No, definitely. Well, and I think like how you mentioned about the checkpoints and like, yeah, just one checkpoint. Like, that's how I was when I first raced. My sister's 13 and she went to her, well, she did Hawaii last year, but went to her like first, I guess, big hard enduro this year, King of Motos. And we were sitting down with her, and we always go through like the night before, what are your goals? Because
yeah,
for me, it's not seeing a checkered flag typically. Like, even at King of Motos, I got on my third lap and I didn't see a checkered flag because typically I don't finish the races. Like, and usually it is a race to checkpoints. And we sat down, like, what's your goal? And she's like, to win. And I was like, no, your goal is not to win. Yes, try to win, but like, also, how many checkpoints do you want to make? And that was her goal. She said, I think it was like make 2 checkpoints or something. And I was like, okay, make 2 checkpoints. And she ended up getting like onto her second lap actually. And
that's
I helped her up
awesome.
that one big hill, the start hill, her problem or something. But I think that that's always like a thing, whether you're starting or not. Like, I still sit down the night before and look at what's my goal, because typically it's not getting to see a checkered flag. Like, usually it's, I want to make 2 laps, or that's my main goal. Try to make 2 laps and then go do above that. But even starting, like, you're going to sit down, you're going to look at it the night before, and you're going to say, okay, what's my goal? Now that I've done a clinic here, what am I going to try to do? And that's your whole race. And just like having fun and getting the experience, I think is the biggest thing. You don't need to go win. Like, right now, just go have fun, try it, learn what it's all about, and then work your way up. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And like,
Exactly.
looking at it, like, I need to enter, and it's just not even like, nobody enters anything for the first time and says, yeah, I'm gonna win now. Like, no, you try it underprepared. Usually I'm underprepared for what's to come. And you learn each race and each step of the way.
Yeah. I'm really fortunate that I've gotten to ride with a lot of people who are higher level riders and who are hard enduro riders. And so I've had a lot of people take me to features and they're like, you've got to be able to do this and you've got to be able to do that. And like, there are things I'm working on. I can't do them yet, but there are things I'm working on. And there are things that like sometimes in the heat of the moment, like if I come across something similar on a trail, I can do it like 9 times out of 10. So it's like, but you put me to like session it and I can do it like 5 times out of 20. So like it's just kind of like that pressure. So it'll be really interesting to see because I don't have a lot of race time under my belt. I'm doing a race next weekend that's a hare scramble, and that'll be my 4th, maybe 5th race ever. And only my 2nd race on this bike. So my other ones were on my TTR. So I'm like, it's going to be really interesting. It's just to get experience in racing and being around other people on the trail and all that. Just to kind of be in that setting. But yeah, I don't have a lot of seat time. I don't have a lot of race time. I don't have a lot of things that I should have that people think you should have. I train. I'm on my bike 5 to 6 days a week. But I'm starting from like square -50 and trying to get to 0 to where I can start doing this stuff because I wasn't an athlete growing up. I was one of the most clumsy people you would have ever met. I have no sense of balance, and I've really had to work hard to make all of those things happen. Like, I practice static balance all the time because I know that that's one of my weakest points is balance. And like, that's my own internal drive because riding a dirt bike's what I wanted to do since I was like 5 years old. I got a ride on a dirt bike from my uncle, and then I didn't get to ride again until, like I said, I was almost 30. So, like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. But it's a lot of work, and I'm a little bit crazy. So I put a lot of time into it.
Well, it sounds like you're doing everything right, and don't be too hard on yourself. I mean, like, you're doing it now, right? Like, you got it started and the ball rolling, and I think that like everybody's taking steps to get better and improve. No matter what level you're at, like everyone kind of enters underprepared for what's about to come. No one, especially in hard enduro, nobody's coming. No one knows what kind of ledge you're gonna have to make it up or whatever. Sure, there's like sort of like, okay, if you're gonna enter, you should at least be here. And if you're gonna go to pro or A, you should be about here and expect this.
Yeah.
But even in women's amateur, like when I first entered, there was stuff that I would like couldn't do on the trail. But when you're out there, there's other C riders with you out there who other B riders who are in the same spot, and everyone helps each other.
Yeah.
You typically, if there's something that's like unrideable for you, there's someone there to help, and you help them, they help you, and it's a very like, and that's just part of the community, back to the community thing. And I think that you sound like you're ready and dedicated to like do it and go have fun. And I think you'll have a great time.
Yeah, I love the struggle. So like when I do go out, like especially with the boys out here a couple weeks ago, they took me through this creek section and I was like, please don't help me. I'm like, just don't go too far away just in case I run into like real trouble, but like don't help me, like let me figure it out cuz like I want to learn how to get through it on my own. And then there was a point where I was like, okay, I'm soaked. I'm cold. I've fallen in the creek like completely already. And I was like, I need advice. Give me advice. And then they gave me advice and I was able to like work through, sent my bike epically. It was amazing. But then they were there, to help me and help me navigate through it. And like, I think that I'm really, really lucky to have found this group of people who just like, are super, super supportive, and they're going to go and they're going to session things because they're all really good. And they're like sessioning at their level stuff, but then they're like, sessioning, but then they're looking and they're watching me. And if I run into real trouble, they're right there immediately. So it's really cool. But they're letting me learn and they're having a lot of patience with me. And that's one thing that I've learned is that not everybody is an impatient person, as my beginning experiences were. There's a lot more patient people out there that are willing to, like you said, if a girl's willing to try, there's a lot of people willing to support that. And so we get all in our heads about being the one to hold the group up or whatever, but a lot of them don't care, especially those top riders. They're just excited that other people are pushing. So I think it's really awesome.
Well, and honestly, like if you're not being held, if you're not being the slowest, if you've never been the slowest before, you're not riding with the right group of people. Like, in order to get better and to improve, you end up riding with people above your level. And I know that, like, there's women who have been like, no, I'm not going to ride with you. I'll slow you down. And I'm like, what do you mean you'll slow me down? Like, I do not care. I will ride behind you slow to you or whatever it is. And like, I think honestly, everyone to improve ends up being the slowest in the group, no matter what level you're. I mean, look at Max. Max Gerson, an incredible rider, but he tries to chase around Cody, and then Max has probably been the slowest before. Like, and he's an incredible rider. But I think that, like, honestly, if you haven't been the slowest in the group, you're probably not riding with the right group of people because you're just not being able to push yourself and like improve. You're just kind of trying to stay the fastest of the group. But I guess whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's really cool. I've been really fortunate, and like I said, I've found people all over the country who I've been able to ride with that were really cool and really supportive. I've been lucky enough to travel the country quite a bit in the last year and a half, and I've ridden, I think, 15 different states now, and found pretty decent groups in most of them. It's been pretty awesome, but I'll be racing East Coast this year. Because I'm so new to West Coast riding. I'm actually from Arizona originally, but I didn't ride when I lived here. I started, like I said, barely really getting seat time last year, and I was East Coast based all of last year. So my riding style, like what I'm comfortable with, is East Coast. And West Coast scares me so much. I'm learning to get more comfortable, but the exposure out here is real. The mountains out here are gigantic. Like, there's so much, like, so many cliffs, and I've already fallen off of a mountain now, so I'm like just a little nervous.
Definitely.
But if you could go to any of the races anywhere in the country, where would you want to go?
Ooh, I really thought about that. But probably somewhere in Europe I would want to go race at. I don't exactly have like a race where I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. But I know that, like, just the challenge and like seeing where you stack up, I think would be really cool. And just racing somewhere completely different would be really cool, because I've raced around the United States, like Pennsylvania. I've done some East Coast, typically in the West Coast. We went to Hawaii last year. So I've gotten to ride around these, like, around the US, but I think that being able to like or something would be a really cool experience, and just see what it's like. How are the riders down there? The people, like, how much different is it? Here, because even West Coast to East Coast, it's different. Like, I went to Tough Like Roar and Shotgun, and at Shotgun, like, everyone was way more hyped to be at. All the spectators were so much more excited than on the West Coast. The West Coast has people to watch, but the East Coast was like, yeah, like with bells and stuff, and they were just so excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, you guys are really into this compared to the West, where it's like people come out and watch, but they're way less like hyped like these guys.
They're not as animated.
It's probably somewhere in Europe if I could pick.
That'd be really cool.
Right,
I'm actually hoping to get to, if it's still happening, I'm 99% sure it is, but Erzberg this year, not to race obviously, but just to watch. I've been told that it's an amazing energy and that there's nothing like it, and I can't really imagine. But it was the first hard enduro I ever saw, so like I think it's like poetic now that I'm going to be doing my first one. It'll be like the month after my first one, and then I'll go to Erzberg. So
that's cool.
It'd be kind of cool.
Erzberg would be really cool to go watch or even race. We were talking about it because when we were little, we always watched Erzberg, and it was like this big thing that we would never have sat down and like, hey, can we go try to do that? Never in a million years we talked about it. And now my brother's like talking about trying to go to Erzberg, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And usually if my brother races, takes 2 of us racing, but I'm like, I would never have imagined like sitting down and like thinking about, it's just weird to think about when we were little that like, because that was never a thing. We were never like, okay, my dad was never like, I'm going to raise pro dirt bikers. It wasn't like a thing. We just watch Erzberg as a family at night because, you know, what better to do? But I think Erzberg should be really fun. That should be a cool experience.
Yeah. If all goes well, and if all of, you know, who knows with whatever's going on with the championship and what races are still going to happen, but the plan for this year was to go to Erzberg in May and then Sea to Sky in October, because that one's really cool out in Turkey. So that'll be epic.
Yeah,
really epic if I can get there. Yeah, if it's all still happening, I'm pretty sure they will. Both of those are pretty big ones. But yeah,
it's cool.
Be awesome to just see new places, because I've never left the US, so it'll be awesome to do it. And I'm hoping I can like rent a bike while I'm there and just putt around, just to say that I rode in a different country.
Right? No, definitely. I feel like you could find a group at least to go ride with. I would try to, at least if you're down there. You might as well ride.
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully it all works out, but we'll see.
Cool.
So what's the next race that you'll be doing here?
I'm going to California for the sprint enduro in Wilkesville. Never done a sprint before.
That's the one this next weekend.
Yeah, like it's our first weekend of spring break. That's like not this weekend, but the one after that. So I'm going to try that. Never done a sprint enduro before. But I was like, you know what? I might as well go try, like, go see what it's like, go try something new. And then we'll drive during our spring break. So we'll leave early next week, get down there, and then drive during spring break to Arizona to race Grinding Stone that next weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of driving, but it should be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I know that life.
Yeah, with 5 of us, it's like packed truck, and then our camper's pretty small, so we're all packed in there. Like,
oh, jeez.
It's fun.
I stayed last year to cut costs. I stayed in my car last year for several months. So I have like a little SUV, and I'm a small person, but that's pretty cramped even for me when my entire world was all packed into my vehicle. So like I would like get to races and stuff, and people would be like, "What is in your car?" I'm like, "Everything I own, essentially." Like
this is my motorhome. Welcome to it.
Yeah, essentially. I put on, I think I estimated it was like 45,000 miles last year or something like that.
Wow,
I put on a lot of miles.
Yeah.
I crossed the country 6 times, and only one of those was flying. So yeah, it was a lot. And most of those were for races that I wasn't racing. I was just going, and I was like taking pictures and hanging out with my friends and going to support people. And yeah, I did one race myself last year that I drove 24 hours across the country for, from Tennessee to North Dakota and then back. Yeah, it was a
lot of road tripping.
It was crazy. But yeah, I do a lot. I need a new vehicle, but because I'll be doing it. I'll be going from Arizona to the East Coast at least 3 times this year. So
you need a moto van.
I need to have like a bike on the East Coast, I think. I think that might be the cheaper option, and just like fly over there, because I know plenty of people who'd pick me up at the airport and just
and like hold your bike there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of traveling, but it's totally worth it, because like we said before, the community is just second to none. Like the community is absolutely amazing. I have friends all over the country, and people that I haven't actually physically met yet, but are some of my best friends because of riding. So riding just brings you the best people. So
Yeah. People similar minded.
yeah, exactly. Well, in our last few minutes here, this is your time to say your thank yous and hellos, hi mom, anything like that.
Yeah. Hi, mom and dad, the whole family. I honestly I think that the thank yous go out mostly to my biggest sponsors. I think it's a big part of why I get to do this, because although the family, of course my mom and dad who drive me everywhere and fund me to go everywhere, are a big help. We couldn't do it without people like Climb or Bulletproof or SXS, and just everyone who helps, the ride shop, in tech, everyone who's behind me and helps even the littlest amount does something for us, especially with 3 of us now racing. So I think those are my biggest thank yous. And I think that if you're looking out to go try to learn, the Cody Webb CW2 training is a giant, been a big help for me. So if you're trying to figure out, where do I go? Because that has women in it. It's got a bunch of women in it. Bunch of people who are all learning different skills. You can just jump on in there and put a video or whatever it is. I think that that's a really cool thing. And if you're looking out,
and if you have 5 seconds to give a new rider to dirt biking in general a piece of advice, what would be your best advice?
My best advice would be willing to fail and not afraid to try new things.
And what about for somebody who's going into hard enduro?
Try not to be too intimidating and look at it too long. If I look at an obstacle for too long, I'm the longer you wait, the more you're oh no, I don't think I can do this. But usually if you can just try it, then what's the worst happens? You fail. You know what I'm saying? Be willing to fail and try again and pick your bike up and do it, because everyone's doing it out there and you're not alone.
I've changed the way that I look at things in regards to what you just said was what's the worst that could happen. I don't say that anymore, especially out on the trail, because that's a split second of negativity of me seeing myself not doing the thing. So instead I say what's the best that could happen, and for that split second I'm seeing myself do the thing, and it's been really good for me so far. I've gotten through most of what I've tried. Because I'm envisioning myself getting over it, and all of a sudden I can just magically do it. And I don't know how, but I do.
Envisioning's a big thing. When I sit down the night before, I definitely envision the start a bunch, and in my head, how's it gonna go? How am I gonna do this? Or in an obstacle, where is my front tire gonna hit, and when am I gonna blip, and whatever it may be, and looking to the top and looking beyond the obstacle, not at what's coming. Is definitely a big thing, I think, especially in hard enduro, because you're just new obstacles are thrown at you 24/7 that you don't get to try and practice, because it's just something on the hillside that they found to put you up.
They're hey, look at this cliff, we're gonna make them go up it this time.
Exactly. And where are you gonna go practice that cliff versus endurocross or whatever? In endurocross there's going to be a section of a matrix, and then there's going to be some tires and whatever it is, and you can practice those things. But in hard enduro, looking to the top and being envisioning yourself cleaning it, not dwelling on what could happen and the worst that can happen, because it does put you in a sinkhole mentally.
Yeah, definitely can, for sure. Well, thank you so much for all of your time. I know this went a little bit over what I thought it would, but I really, really appreciate it. This was really cool to finally connect with you. And I'm super stoked to see you at Grinding Stone. It's going to come up really quick.
I know. That should be really fun, though. Last year I broke my wrist there, so it's redemption round for me.
Yeah, let's not do that again. You're gonna totally clean it. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna be what's the best that could happen? And you're gonna do it.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun talking.
Thank you.
To know you and what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's been great to get to know you as well. And I'm stoked for the world to hear your story. So
Yeah, any women out there, anyone, feel free to reach out to me and hit me up if you got questions.
Our DMs are open now.
They're open.
All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.